Uplift the lives one day at a time. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. They're here to get your day going fine. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio. Kimmy Kim and Elations Radio.
And here's your host, Miss Kim Robinson.
Check the way I walk, been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag. My Christ swag, yeah. Yeah, I'm from the streets. South of the arch, man, where I used to drink, roll up, and used to spark, man. Now I got my head straight, shining like $1 million bucks. Christ elevated me, going past the ceiling, bruh. St. Louis fitted, God Squad t-shirt. Homie, how you doing? Pleased to meet you, this my rebirth. Addicted to the word, it's pumping through my artery. Faith on the meal, the swag is a part of me. Now my glow bright, soul's been redeemed, covered in the blood, no shower, cause I'm clean. Done playing games, rid of the Xbox, almost flatline, but Christ made my chest pop, walked on the edge, the devil made me wobble. Jesus took the wheel, fast forward full throttle, still in the hood, got that street slang, mixed with the spirit, it's a G thing. Peep how I talk, check the way I walk, been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. Yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. God Squad, bruh. Swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, Cardiac. My Christ swag, yeah. Look.
My whole style come from Christ, yeah. So own it, no sir, you can't put a price. Right, white on rice, I got his blood on me. To be honest, I just care about my guy, homie. And if I'm only living for him, it don't really even matter what y'all think of me. Opinions, you can let them be. I'm killing it, I let them see the old me is gone. Keep the demons out my heart, then Christ found a home. Yeah. No more Patron or nitrous. I might just give God a praise with my best. He's high, yes. Glory in here. Hallelujah, yes, sir. Put my trust in the Lord. I ain't having no fear. No, I don't have a care. Besides pleasing my Father, tell any hater you see, man, don't even bother. Cause Jesus is my medicine. I ain't never hurting. Catching waves of his glory, man, I'm Christ swag surfing.
Yeah. I talk, check the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag.
God Squad.
My Christ swag, yeah.
Okay, I get it from my father. Head to toe swinging on that word, that's the motto. Used to be a up or down flipper like the Lotto. Roll with Big Frank and ST, old squad though. Now I'm aiming at the world with that blessed scope. Hard repetition, stay flexing, holy rollers know. When you see that light shine, this ain't baby dough. He ain't got a VVS on him, what a freak show. No, but I'm close with my father though. I ain't Leroy, but the boy got a lot of glow. Took a whole lot of laying out to kill his ego. Missing my whole purpose like Shaq with them free throws. If you rap in vain, can't edify the people. Swag on 100, gaining speed, adios flow. and I'm top flow, reaching for his glory. You think I got some swag? Christ the one that poured it on me.
I talk, just the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag. My Christ swag, yeah.
It's my Christ swag. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. It's Relentless Pursuit again with Mr. Sedric and my homeboy Jason. We're going to be out here today. What a beautiful day. Last week was a good week. This past week was a good week. I just want to say that I'm just thankful to God right now. I'm just thanking God. I'm so thankful. Sister Kimmy, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Well, today we got started off on a few things, and I just want to put this out here for everybody. Today is a beautiful day. We just started in August. Today's August the 2nd. And today I want to talk a little bit. It's been something that's been I've really been having a lot of discussions about, and kind of really touches my heart. And I know that most of us in some way, shape, form, or fashion have experienced something here to make us feel like we are, let's just say it like this, like we're bound, you know what I mean? And so today, kind of want to talk a little bit about race in America, right? I know it's one of those taboo subjects. We don't get into it very much, but I don't want to come and talk about it just from the standpoint to say, oh, well, we live in a prejudiced country or something like that. And I don't want to lay it all on the politicians. No, I just want to have an honest discussion. You know, I've had a few discussions here of late, and man, honestly, everybody, I didn't know how much it has affected me in my life. I go through some things, but when I look through my own lens, I don't even see my own prejudices. But here in America, we know we ain't got it perfect, but we got it okay, and it can be a lot better. So that's what we want to talk a little bit about today. I was doing a little bit of reading, as I have to study, because I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so I have to read a lot. But I remember God's command. God's command was judge not. You know what I'm saying? And basically, you've got many different ways where you say God doesn't just judge by appearance, right? So I just wanted to remind myself, and I had to read this for myself. It said, "For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and we were all given the one Spirit to drink," right? Now, that meant something to me. That's 1 Corinthians, for those of y'all who wanted to look it up, 1 Corinthians 12:13. But the thing is, it made me think, as I was having discussions about today's show, it made me think, you know, I talked to a few people, and they were telling me what they were taught from the Bible about God separating people. And they mentioned race. I had never been taught that, and I still haven't been taught that, and I don't believe God separated us by race. He did give us different ethnicities, you would say, nationalities, and things of that nature. But I've been having a little bit of a struggle. A couple of friends who wanted to talk about race because they are white, I'll say it like that, and they don't experience certain types of prejudices in their lives. And so they came and, you know, we talked. So been having these discussions for about the last, 3 weeks, maybe a month, and they have been really opening up my eyes to some things. So having said that, I have my buddy Jason on. Jason, you out there, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I got you, man. Loud and clear. Well,
Man, tell the people what you've been talking about these last few weeks, man. Just what's on your heart and mind for the day, and we'll jump right into our show.
I think race is a really important topic, and it's something when we turn TV on, you're going to experience every day. I'll tell you, as I was doing some of my research, and we'll talk about this later on in the show, just looking at the origin of race and the implications and, how it's kind of impacted us today was very eye-opening. I think this is a great conversation that needs to be had, and we need to, get more people talking about this. So my prayer today is for everybody out there listening to maybe get a bit of nugget that they can take out there to continue these conversations outside just what we call these virtual four walls.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, with that being said, thank you, Jason. That being said, man, I got to tell you, Jason, I've been talking, and I know racism is real, right? So I want to start with, what is racism? And I've always been taught this. I was kind of one of them little kids in school, and I like to read about Black history and stuff, but one of the things I found about racism, in plain simple English, is a separation of what we call a group of people by color. For me, I'm just going to leave it at that, by color and different origins, just simply based on that. There's no real reason. We believe one race or one group of people is superior to another group of people by virtue of what we call and what we have defined as race. Am I correct in that, Jason? Do you want to add something to that?
No. I mean, racism is that thinking of superiority based on that classification of race.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to start out with, because I wanted to throw this out there, because I know, Jason, have you heard about the Temple of Babel in the Bible, and they said God separated the people into races?
I've heard that theory, yes.
Okay, so and I first want to test that, because I want to go just a little bit back. I mean, I want to go all the way back to biblical days, and I want to jump forward a little bit. But I know that when I read that passage out of Genesis, it talks about separating them by languages so that they would not understand each other. For me, I think that's where we get the different nationalities from, right? And not everybody was the same. I don't think that God separated everybody by race at that point, right? Some people teach that in the church. I've heard it. I understand it. I personally, all my studies and some of my mentors, I've talked to them about it, and so we kind of agree on that. But I also, when it comes to America, now racism did not start in America. Classism was a big thing in Europe in the 1700s. When you jump up to the 1800s, we find racism starts to come into play. But when we get here to America, we think that we can jump into the whole movement of slavery, right? We talking about living in different colonies, or we talk about the colonies and whatnot. But as we move through history, racism, why is it that in America we have yet to get over racism? Why is it we still think, these are questions I have, these are the thoughts that I had about this. Why do we still think because a person's skin tone that they are either more or less intelligent or less human than another person? And so one of the things, Jason, I hope we can talk about here is the first thing I want to tackle is when it comes to the Bible, and the reason I brought that up, is there really a such thing as race? Here on the planet, with all the people who live here, is there really a such thing as race? What do you think about that?
So, and this is where my eyes got really open. As I started to study, like, what really is race, a lot of people, are, and this is something I subscribe to, that race is really a social construct. It's something that we've created as a society. Because if you look at genetically and biologically speaking, you can't say there's a certain cluster of genes or cells that makes one person black or white or Mexican or Asian. You know, you can't define that from a biological standpoint, from a genetic standpoint. But we do have this classification and this called race that we use. And as I was studying it, it turned out that race was a social construct, and it was really created to try to do just that. How do I classify this greater group of humans into categories that can be easily identified and recognized? And that's where the concept of race came to be. There was a study done by a scientist, a German scientist, and he just kind of looked at, the skull shape of over 60 individuals, and that really was the origins of what we call modern-day race today. But it was all based on observational things, nothing biological or genetic. So thing of race that we hold so tightly to is something that was in reality was created, and to going back to biblical times, if you read the Bible doesn't really speak of races of men. It speaks of tribes. It speaks of different family lineages. The Tower of Babel talks about people who speak a same language, which ultimately, and as you kind of fast forward, it talks about the migration of those peoples to different areas of town, different areas of the world, but it doesn't really talk about race as we know it today, especially in America.
So when we get down to races today, all right. So I do want to touch on the point you talked about, because you talked about the study of the skulls, and without having everybody take out the history books, we also find that a lot of we can go back to the Holocaust, and I know we use that a lot, but even we can go back beyond that. We can go back even into slavery. Why is it that they thought a certain group of people was less intelligent because of the color of their skin? Why is it in today's society, for as long as I can remember, and I'm almost 50, why is it we look at certain people, we look at black people as if they could be just savages, like they were less than human? Not too long ago, a couple of 100 years ago, they believed that the slaves didn't feel pain the way that the whites felt pain. The slaves were more or less animals. But in today's society, my question is, and the thing that it doesn't anger me, but it does concern me a lot, is why is it even in today? Jason, you talked about the study of those skulls, the German scientists, but all the reports that I've read, and they talk about us as human beings, and for those of us who know, we're Homo sapiens, right? When the Bible speaks of us, he says man, right? We're one kind, we're mankind, we were made in the image of God. It has nothing to do with race, right? Why is it says that we are basically 98% exactly the same? There's no difference in us as human beings. And that's what gets me. That's what really digs deep into me. Growing up, I went to history. I took advanced history classes, right, all the way up to high school till I graduated. Very seldom did we find that black people or anybody other than a white person or somebody who looked white did anything, right? Very seldom. Well, let's see, we got George Washington Carver. Man, that man could really do some things with peanuts. Oh, the cotton gin. But we never find that, like when I looked in the history books, I never saw people like me doing big things or everyday things in the world, like the refrigerator, like the lawnmower. You know what I'm saying? And so in our society today, it seems like we refuse to give credit where credit's due. They say history is his story, meaning to the victor go the spoils. Whomever is victorious in a war or in whatever, that person gets to write history the way they see it. And I'm having a problem with how we talk about race today because of that. We're not being honest about it. We're not being fair about it. So many of us will say, well, I'm not affected by this discrimination. And these are black people too. Well, I'm not affected, so I'm okay. Not knowing that eventually, if you allow it to affect everybody around you, you're going to be affected as well. So I've been struggling with this, and I've had a hard time about it. And for me, this is a discussion. So Jason, you're gonna have to teach today, okay? So we've already identified that races don't even exist, especially when you're coming from the Bible, right? So Jason, you and I were having a discussion earlier. What's the difference between race and, you wanted to say, nationality? How would we separate the two? How would we? I mean, because I know eventually what I'd like to talk to you about, Jason, I'd eventually like to talk about how we can overcome these issues and then move on to that bigger picture that you and I talked about before.
For me, the biggest difference when we talk about race and what I would call nationality is nationality is really concrete. Because nationality just talks about where do you physically reside in the nation that you live in. And that's something that you can't argue. It's not an ideal. It's very concrete. And if you were born in South Africa, if you were born in Africa, then your nationality is African, because that's the continent and the physical location that you're from. And as opposed to race, as we already discussed, being a social construct, that's a lot more fluid. You know, and like that person born in, let's say, Antarctica, you know, and no one can argue you were born in Antarctica and that's your nationality. It's not based on my experience or the social circle I run with. You know, you go to anybody across the other 7 continents, hey, this guy was born in Antarctica. Well, he's an Antarctican. And then they all agree upon it. Where race is a very fluid concept. And I think, you know, for me, for us to kind of move past, we've got to be able to find something concrete that we can build off of. So when you contrast race versus nationality, you're contrasting something concrete versus something that's fluid. You know, and there are some nuances to the fluidity of race, and I think we can't forget about those or try to ignore those. But on the other end, we can't continue to harp on those because with it being so fluid, with it being so, you know, based on that social circle you run with, it's harder to kind of have a conversation on the same page. Break that down for me a little bit, Jason.
Break that down for me a little bit. You said we can't harp on what?
Well, for me, I think the road to success, and we'll get to this later on, is not focusing on the things that makes us different, but focusing on the things that we have together and building off that. And race, go ahead.
So you're saying don't focus on the things that make us different, but focus on the things that make us more alike?
Focus on the things we have in common, yeah. I mean, and we give credit, and we don't ignore the differences and those nuances, but I don't believe they should be an area of focus. Okay.
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. So yeah, and like I said, just in closing, contrasting race with nationality, I think you're contrasting a concrete ideal versus a more fluid ideal, and I think as we talk about this conversation, you know, we have to recognize where we are, how we got here, but then as we start thinking about moving forward, is how do we make things more concrete, find areas that we can be agree upon, you know, and you find this in business. Most of the times they say anytime you get into any type of negotiation, you kind of focus on where y'all agree and then build from there, and that's how you kind of build consensus and kind of grow together. So that's just kind of my thoughts on the whole race versus nationality.
Okay, see, cause I think of the same thing, but I think of different ethnic groups, right? And so when I think of nationalities, but my problem is within that same nationality, you can still have racism. Like nationality, we're both from America, right?
Correct.
So according to what you're saying, though, we should not have or experience racism, right?
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, to say we should not have or experience racism is forgetting about what has happened. What I'm saying is, in order to try to get ourselves past racism, is to first recognize race for what it is. It's a social construct. It's not biological.
Okay.
It's not genetic. It's something that depends on the social circle that you're part of. It can be very fluid. So recognizing that and saying, okay, well, this is something that's going to be very fluid. Understand that what social circle define this. Look at the current definition of it, but then ultimately moving to say, okay, who am I and what am I? Well, if we use nationality, then I'm an American. All righty. Well, then as Americans, how do we look at the group that way and look at the bigger picture? But no, we can't forget about how we got here and the history, because I think that actually is more detrimental, because to dismiss the experience of people over all these years is offensive, and it doesn't really build. It builds more division than it does encourage more collaboration.
Okay, so here we are, two black men in America, right? Two black men in America. I've experienced a level of racism, a level of it, right? And I do, and I tell people this all the time. Me personally, I will get a pass in a lot of areas, just by virtue and by nature of what I do for a living, my presentation when they meet me, that kind of thing. But yet I've still experienced it. So what you're saying, I want to know, as a black man in America, how do I, now that I've identified this is a problem, but I still play a part in this, how can we start to overcome it? Because my dream, my hope, my goal is for one day, is like Dr. King said, that we'll be judged by the content of our character, not by the color of our skin, that I find that 70 years later we're still dealing with. How do we reframe our thought processes so that we can help facilitate that?
And I'll tell you, this is difficult. This is going to be tough. And I think part of us, we got to start with our self-identification. How do I identify myself? Right? If I identify myself as a black man, well, I'm putting myself in a group, and in that classification, but I also have to be very aware of there are certain just social stigmas that come with that title and label. And if we are going to continue to classify ourselves in those manners, we need to probably find a consensus of what does it mean to be a black man, because that's not even consistent. You go talk to somebody who grew up in a lower socioeconomic situation, and they're saying, "Well, you're not black." And I'll tell you honestly, to be really vulnerable, in my experience, I've been told like we're not black enough, and I'm like, what makes me black as opposed to what makes me not black enough? And the conversation that comes around that. So, I mean, I think there has to be a consensus, and we all have to kind of find something that we can agree upon. So if I'm going to classify myself as a black man, what can we all agree upon? This is what a black man is. And this is when you start realizing that social construct of race, how it starts to play out. Because a black man may be defined differently from someone who grew up in an affluent community in Connecticut as opposed to someone who grew up in a downtrodden area in California, right? And then they may have two totally different definitions of what a black man is. So I personally would say let's find a classification that we all can agree upon and build from that. However, if we are going to choose
why can't I just be a man? Why can't I just be a man? Why I got to be classified as anything other than a man? And that's my big argument. My big fight is just that. Why do I have to fall? I mean, we're not animals, right? We don't have to be lions and tigers or either or. When you're a human being, you're just a human being. You know, animals are animals. We have different classifications for them, right? And so I struggle with that.
And I think the challenge we come into is that theoretically is a great concept, but you've got so much history of dealing with this thing called race that has become so ingrained into our everyday life. I mean, think about it. Race is written into some of our foundational documents of the United States, the amendments.
Yes, it is.
Some of the laws.
Yes, it is.
It has now become so entrenched in just our American culture that to overcome it is going to be a daunting task. Now, I can't say it can't be done, but we have entrenched that ideal of race in almost every aspect of our life. I mean, like I said, we look at our foundational documents that make up that kind of govern the United States. And you look at just how things are played out. We got different television stations, you know, catered towards one race versus another. You know, so it's pervasive, you know. And I think we have to start having real conversations of, okay, what are we really talking about? And we throw that word race around a lot. And I'll tell you, for me, I'm really big on defining the words that we say. You know, and it's a little frustrating to have conversations that, yeah, you throw that word out there, but that word may mean something different to me than it does to you. And part of this is starting to, like, everybody has to define that term. So when we start throwing the word race out there and then start talking about the black race, the white race, the Hispanic race, we need to start defining what that word means against this individual so we can start having communications to say, hey, what do we think about this word as a culture, and then try to find some agreement there.
So, because now I'm taking notes, right? So, as we say that, and as I hear you say it, I mean, so my approach is a very simple approach. Like, I feel like I have experienced racism because of the way certain people have talked to me, the way they have talked to me. I told you I don't know if I told you, there was an incident I had with one of my clients, and I was in the office, and one of their employees really came off to me as if she thought I was maybe her child. And here's a woman who just graduated college 3 years ago. She's maybe 28, and here I am. I'm old enough to be her father, but she felt that she could speak to me in that tone. Was it racially motivated? This is where we get stuck, and this is where I want to learn to overcome. Was it racially motivated, or does she have a sense of privilege? Right? Well, personally, I thought that she had a sense of privilege. I don't think she did it because of quote-unquote race, but I don't think that me being brown helped the situation any. I think it further empowered her to feel the way that she felt, which was a slap in the face to me. And I bring this point up to say, you know, these are things that happen every single day to people, every single day. And, you know, I just want to know that I'm navigating this thing the right way, because I talk to people, I interact with people, and I interact with some people who are just like, man, I'm telling you, and they're upset about it. And so I just want to know how to how can I express myself? How can I get this out? Because it can be a very complicated issue. I would love to say that race itself is black or white, but let's just be honest, it's not black or white. It's huge. And so I'm trying to grow from the experience. So
here's what I would say, and I think what the experience that you brought up, I think it goes beyond race. I think it goes to, we have to be careful when we project intentions on other people, and I think that's part of the challenge. And like I said, you see this problem that goes beyond race. Anytime you have a conflict, most conflicts are just miscommunication. It's you said something, I subscribe an intention or motive behind it. I never verified what you were trying to do, and my whole response is based on everything that goes on in my own within me. And then now you get the outward expression of that, and then the other person's like, where is this coming from? So I think one thing that we all have to do, and like I said, and this is just not with racial conversation, but this is just in conflict in general. Verify what your intention is. Like, hey, you're speaking to me in a really inappropriate fashion. What's going on? And it may be like, well, I know I'm doing that. I'm mad at you. Okay. Well, understand that your feelings about me should not dictate how I'm treated as a person. You know. Now, beyond that, there may be. I mean, unfortunately, when those level of conversations they do require that the other person is very honest about what their intentions are, what their motivation is. But at least if we can bring that to the forefront, we can at least maybe eliminate some of the harsher feelings. And then over time, I truly believe over time, true colors come out, right? And after time of dealing with, a conversation, then you can start saying, hey, we've discussed this several times, and we talked about what respectful communication looks like and how to communicate respectfully in various situations. I continue to see a disrespectful communication. So can you explain to me why is it that this is something that we struggle with repeatedly? Now you're asking that person to think a little bit deeper to, like, what's driving my motivation, And it's like, what? Maybe I'm talking to you differently because the thoughts about who you are as a person dictates that. But I think, like I said, these are difficult conversations to have, and because they're so emotionally tied and driven, that makes it even more difficult. And I think we need to continue to have these conversations. We can't dismiss the feelings. I don't think it's ever good to dismiss feelings, but it's putting them in the right perspective to try to work through them, and to continue to have these conversations, and everybody being open-minded and honest. And if you dislike me because of the color of my skin, I don't have to agree with your beliefs. I don't have to accept your beliefs. But I truly believe you have a right to that belief. Now, I have a right to say, I'm not going to fool with you. I'm not going to interact with you. I'm not going to deal with you. If it's in a work environment, I have a right to go to my employer and say, hey, understand that this is how she feels about me. We need to establish some really sound guidelines of how we interact with each other in the workplace. Outside the workplace, then there is an option. I don't have to deal with you. Now, yeah. I think when you start having people in authority with that position, now we've got to have conversations like, do you really need to be in that position of authority? Because now you can affect that thought process down on everybody else. And these are the conversations we have happen. And like I said, I think everybody has a right to their opinion, their thoughts, but I don't think everybody has a right to use that to propagate what they think is right and wrong.
So I'm sitting back and I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to take in everything that you just put out there. I just think that for us as a culture, as a people, I think that one of the most important things, I'm just going to be honest, because I don't believe in, me personally, I don't believe in separation of races or anything of that nature. But I believe for us as a culture and a people, we're probably some of the most intelligent people on the planet. Not because of our, not for any other reason except that we have to work a little bit harder than most people. You know, we don't, that sense of entitlement doesn't inherently belong to us. It's something that we've always had to work for. And I think that when we're talking about race in America today, I think the subject matter just transcends our feelings. It's not just about our feelings. And we have to be careful as a people not to become that thing which we hate. You know, if I say I hate racism, I've got to be careful that I don't become the racist myself. Because as in my example I gave you earlier, what I was thinking, you know, me trying to think about how she was looking at me or how she thought of me, you know, it kind of turns the tables a little bit. And I want to be careful of that. But with that being said, I do believe racism exists in America. I do believe it's an intentional thing. I do believe that, like you said, it was written into our Constitution. If we look at our laws, we know where police departments came from. Those of us who studied, we know that police departments were created to keep the newly freed slaves in line in the South. And when the Union troops pulled out of the South, all of the land that the former slaves were given, were awarded, had earned, or whatever you want to call it, they were taken away from them. And thus began Jim Crow. And we know how long that lasted. And so I think this whole topic on race from every perspective is important. It's really important. I think we really need to take note of it because we have a younger generation growing up, and we don't want them to be blind to the facts. You know, the worst thing we could ever want is for our children, our offspring, to not, I guess the way I'm trying to say it is to not have their heritage, but to not understand it. And I would love for there to be one day we have kids who are born of all races, creeds, and colors, and they never have to know about racism as a whole. I would love for that to happen. But as it stands today, you know, we need to know and understand our history so it can stop repeating itself. Because I don't know about you, but I know that since the election of Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, racism in America has completely gone off the rails. And when we talk about these last 2 years, it's gone even further. I mean, we're talking about white supremacy and hate groups have grown over 500 times. We talk about the FBI not investigating these groups anymore. They have cut the manpower and the resources to investigate these groups, and we talk about a crackdown on militant groups that are other than the white supremacy groups, and we talk about immigration the way that we talk about it. All of this feeds into hate. All of this feeds into racism. And these are the things, this is why I want to talk about this, so that we have to grow beyond it. But, man, I'm going to tell you, I'm tired of being a bigger man. So I'm trying to learn, and I do want to open myself up so that I can talk to guys like yourself, Jason, more often. But I want everybody listening, everybody within the sound of my voice, I want everybody to understand that we have a role to play in all of this. And none of us are going to get out of this without getting a few bruises, right? A few dents. And what I mean by that is we're going to have some experiences. I don't mean nobody's going to get beat up or anything. I'm just saying we're all going to have some hurtful experiences. And I think that the only way we can get past it is to hit the problem head on. I think we need to look at it. I mean, pick up your books. Read as many books as you can find, because I'm an avid reader, and I love to read. So with that being said, Jason, you want to give us some of your last thoughts? We got about 4 or 5 minutes left here.
Yeah, and I would say that as we do our history and we do our study and we recognize the differences that have existed, continue to exist, you just got to think about our kids. Like most kindergartners, they don't know the term race. All they know is little Julie's fun to play with. Little Billy's is very mean to me. He takes my toys. And you said it earlier, and I think we almost brushed past it. Race is something that we're taught, right? And then from that, once you teach race, then quickly you learn that, one race is being treated differently from another race, greater than, lesser than. Now the idea of racism can now exist. You know, if we know that we're teaching race because we watch kids and how they interact with one another, and how they just, you know, they truly live out what Dr. King wanted. A man is judged by the character of his heart, not by the color of his skin. I don't like Little Susie not because Little Susie is a different color than me, is Little Susie keeps taking my toy, right? And that's why I don't like Little Susie. And you know, that is a beautiful way to live life. That, no, Little Susie, you keep taking my toy, I don't want to play with you. Because at some point in time, Little Susie's going to be like, I'm tired of being alone, let me stop taking someone's toy. And she can change that. She can change how she interacts with people. But if I don't like Little Susie because of the color of her skin, Little Susie can't change that. And so it's interesting. We talk about the fix to racism and how do we fix it. But we always talk about like racism is a learned thing and a taught thing. Well, then the question is, how do we stop teaching it? How do we stop making it a learned process? How do we take it out of this our system so that kids can still like Little Susie, Big Susie, because Big Susie's now taking her toys. And that's the only reason why I dislike Big Susie, is because she keeps taking my toys. The character of her heart, not the color of her skin. You know? So I do believe it's important to understand history. I do believe that we can't negate what's happened. We can't negate where we are, and we can't negate the impact it has. But I think, you know, I'm going to go back to what I always said. I think there has to be a healing. And I think that's across all races. There has to be a healing of what this thing was, what this thing is, what this thing is currently doing. And then let's start talking about, okay, now that we've healed these wounds, and we've healed these wounds as individuals, how do we heal the wounds as a collective? You know?
Yeah.
And in healing those wounds as a collective, how do we create a system where, you know, we're not teaching this, and we're not continually promoting this race concept, thus creating and promoting racism. You know, because if there is no race, there can't be no racism.
And I agree. So there's one race, there's a human race, and until we get to that point, you know, until we get to that point when in our teaching and everybody's understanding, man, it's just going to be, one day we'll get there. It may not be in my lifetime, it may not be in yours, but it's going to be a beautiful thing, because you made me think about something. I was thinking about the Confederate flag, and I was thinking about a guy I used to work with, and I was kind of giving him a quick history on the Confederate flag, which it wasn't even called that. They just adopted that name. They stuck it to it, and it was basically just a rebel flag. And he did not understand how, being a black man in America, that flag was so offensive. I think that the key to overcoming racism is to understand racism from another person's point of view. You know, for us as people of color, as black people or people of color, we have to see racism from where white people see it, right? Not because we want to be white, but how to better correct them when they're out of line, and vice versa. This guy, the guy I worked with, he just had no clue until I asked him, well, what if you had this particular experience? And I described an experience for him. He just thought, and he was like, wow, gee, this guy was like 55 years old. Wow, gee, I never thought of it like that. I'm like, really? So it was very common sense to me, but it wasn't for him. So with that said, Jason, man, we're gonna get ready to turn it on off the air, because I want to be back next week. Jason, I got a couple guys I want you to talk to this week, And we're going to be back next week. I thank everybody for tuning in. Y'all know what I always say. It's time to find something we love. It's time to find it. It's time to pursue that. It's time to just enjoy the pursuit and know that this is our relentless pursuit. We want to follow God. We want to be better citizens. Thank everybody for showing up, and I just want to pray for everybody. God bless us one and bless us all. In Jesus' name, amen. Sister Kim, you want to cue our music for us?
Lord, I just want to say thank you for sending your son down to die for my sins. Even though I messed up and I get it wrong, you love me unconditionally. So here I am, all I have is you, a sinner saved by grace, but is that really true? Cause I still feel in love for what I used to do, and I don't feel a change, but my heart yearns for you. I don't feel complete, even when it's going right. When I'm missing you, Lord, please come into my life. Loving you the real test, not to love you to get blessed. And yes, I know that you the best. So here I am to worship, sacrifice my life so you can work it. How you see fit for your glory is worth it. Everything else can take a backseat. Running to your throne for your mercy like a track meet. Why you have to ask me? I don't understand. Without you, Lord, how can I be a real man? I ain't gon' try. I give you all of me, Lord, and ride till I die. Put my knees to the floor.
Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me.
So here I am, all I have is me. Still to this day, it feel make-believe. Why would you save me? I stoned you to death. I made you bleed on your cross to your last breath. Lord, was I really worth it? Cause apart from you, my life is all worthless. Ain't no point in working, cause it's all in vain. Without a real purpose, I really need to change. I don't know how, it's amazing that you even called me. Lord, I'm in RC, my struggles still haunt me. Random women every night, just to feel wanted. To feel like a man, cause my daddy didn't want me. And the past pain, addicted to Mary Jane. Father on cocaine, money down the drain. Baby mama drama, got me going insane. I know I've been redeemed, but I don't feel a change.
Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me.
I'm paying homage to you, Father, that's my only option. After you ripped the veil and gave me the gospel, so I could see the truth, so I can walk with you. And that's the greatest thing that anyone can ever do. You really saved my life when I was worst at it, an addict on any level for pleasure, pain, and passion. I could never grasp it, cause it's never lasting. But Lord, you everlasting. I burn my flesh to ashes so I can walk with you. Your love is unconditional. So even though I struggle with my past, you still see me through. Sometimes I get it wrong, I fail plenty times, but I get back up and I ride. Your son lived and died for my eternal life, so now I'm still tight. God inside, you give me light. Now I stand, I will fight. All my pain, hurt, and my struggles in my past life. Lord, you wipe away my tears every night.
Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow